Hello, my people, mi pueblo, my people, my people, my people. How you doing, my people? How y'all are today? This is your boy Adeleke, and I am here to chat with you a little bit. I woke up this morning, and this happens sometimes. Like I'll wake up, and it's like I was having a dream, or I was deep in thought in my sleep, something like that, where I'll wake up with this thought on my mind, right? And this morning was one of those mornings. So I woke up this morning thinking that, you know, I wanted to talk a little bit and even do a video in particular about epistemology. Like, that's not the thought that I had exactly, but the thought that I had was I want to do a video about feeling, gut feeling, heart feeling, and mind feeling. Normally, we don't think about mind feeling, but we generally don't think about heart thinking or gut thinking either. And really, you know, what does your gut say? We say, you know what I'm saying? Follow your heart. You know what I'm saying? And when we talk about gut and heart, we talk about it in terms of feeling, but it's really a kind of thinking. It's a kind of knowing. What is your gut? We don't normally say, what does your gut know? But that's what we mean when you say, well, trust your gut, or I have a gut feeling. We're really saying, what does your gut know? And then the same thing with the heart, right? We don't say your heart. Well, we do say your heart knows. The heart knows. We do say that. But mostly when we refer to the heart, we refer to feeling. Oh, I feel it in my heart. But we rarely feel it in our mind. You know what I'm saying? But we do. We actually feel it in our mind the same way we feel it in our gut. Or we know it in our mind in the same way we know it in our gut. Right? And it's, of course, gut, mind, heart. Knowing is not the same knowing. It's a different kind of knowing. Like knowing something in your gut, knowing something in your heart, knowing something in your mind. That's really not the same kind of knowing. And now when you know one thing in your gut and you know that thing in your heart and you know that thing in your mind, you can manifest like that. Lickety split. Like you can literally think a thought and it come to being. And some people would argue that's what the Messiah was all about, right? But that's a whole nother conversation. But so when I woke up, first thing I do in the morning is I say some short prayers and these miniature meditations. Supposed to be working out first thing, but I'm being consistent with that prayer and meditation. Then I got to get ready to get my youth to school, and so on my way bringing youth to school, I tell them, I say, I think I'm gonna do a video today, and there's like, what? So I've been doing the YouTube videos, and there's like, oh, I said, well, what you gonna talk about? And I said, epistemology, and they're like, huh? And I thought it was a learning moment, right, for me to teach my kids who are in a range of ages in this transit to school, from kindergarten to kindergarten, fifth and ninth grades, to learn this new term, epistemology. So I explained to them what epistemology is. Epistemology is the knowledge of knowing, or the science of knowing, and the study of knowing, or the study of the science of knowing. You can say the science of knowing, or you can say the study of knowing, but basically it's it's really a Western concept, but it's the idea of like how we make the systems and the methods and the processes that we employ to make distinctions between beliefs and opinions, right? And like I explained it to them, beliefs are generally formed or maintained through evidence, whereas opinions are generally maintained or formed through assumption. And even assumption and evidence are still knowing, but they're different fragments of what is to be known. They're different kinds of knowing. So there's no one way of knowing, and that's the truth. And then I also remind them about the eye of Horus. and the eye, specifically the eye of Ra. The eye of Horus and the eye of Ra are different ways of knowing. But when we talk about the eye of Ra, we talk about the six senses of the human experience, and how each aspect of the eye represents a different part of the human knowing. The part across the top is thought. One corner of the eye is hearing. Another corner of the eye, smell. The pupil of the eye, sight. The drop down portion, touch. And the longer portion that curls over being the tongue, or either, which is taste and sound, not sound, but speech. And so those are all different ways of knowing. I gave my daughter the example of like two type, an orange, like a blood orange and a grapefruit. You can have an orange and a grapefruit. And if you know them only by holding them by touch and looking at them, and maybe even thumping them on the ground or plucking them and hearing them, you know two different. You may know them to be the same thing when you pick them up, like, oh, yeah, these are the same thing. And now you know that they're the same thing by touch and sight. And maybe even smell, you may deduce that they're the same thing. But if you cut it and open it and taste it, now you know that they're not, right? This tastes very different from this, and therefore they are differentiated. And therefore that additional knowing takes the knowledge that was had before and compiles it and presents itself as new knowing. You know something new, something that you didn't know before. It's not that you know something entirely new, but you know something in a more complete way. And epistemology is all about that, those processes, the study of knowing, right? One of my favorite subjects back in school, that and calculus. I'm a bit of a nerd. And physics. I'm a bit of a nerd. There was some other things I really enjoyed too, but epistemology was definitely very high on the list of enjoyed studies of my own in school. And then so I finished my route, and today was actually award ceremony day. So I head back to the school for my fifth grader, and I'm going to catch, because he's speaking. He was asked to speak, to address the class, and I was like, oh, that's cool. So I wanted to be there to, support him and, hear what he had to say. And I'm glad I did, because it was phenomenal. But while I was waiting, I got there a little early. So I'm sitting in the parking lot, and I was like, you know how it is. You're thumbing through your phone, Instagram comes up, and this video comes up, and across the top of the video it says, well, there's a young man with a mic, and he's in a crowd. It looks like some kind of festival, street fair or something. And he walks up to this one gentleman, and he says, there's an older guy, and he asks the question, he says, how many genders are there? And he gives the guy the mic, and the mic says, I don't know, I just got here. And it was supposed to be, I guess, a joke on him when he said, I don't know, I just got here. And then I read some of the comments, and some of the comments was like, welcome to Earth. And, he just beamed in from another time, and things like that. And I thought that is, his comment alone was a stroke of genius. It was genius. It was truly brilliant. And even the comments, and some of the comments that were being made were kind of facetious. They were really trying to poke fun at his comment. But even the comments that was poking fun at his comment reflected the genius of his comment, right? And the genius of his comment is that worldview is a reality of our existence. What do I mean by that? There is a such thing as a Yoruba worldview, a Cherokee worldview. There is a such thing as a Choctaw worldview. There's such thing as a Christian worldview, a Muslim worldview, or Islamic worldview, I should say. No, actually, there is a Muslim worldview and an Islamic worldview, and those can be differentiated. You may even have Buddhist worldview, Baptist worldview, right? A juvenile worldview, an elder worldview. But generally, when you speak in the epistemological context, when you say worldview, you normally are speaking within the context of a system of thinking or a cultural framework. Like within the framework of this culture, the view of the world is as such a Hebrew worldview, right? And a lot of times, new worldviews are spun off of prior or previous worldviews, right? You know, the man grows up in the house of his father and his mother, you know, and he learns the ways of his father and his mother. And then at some point, he decides to be a father himself. And in that way, he has experiences that are outside the experiences of his own family house. And now in his family house, he incorporates these new visions and these new understandings of the world into what he teaches those in his house. And that is a way of expressing, or even not only expressing, but elevating or pushing forward or extending worldviews. And that's a very important concept to hold on to, right? Because there's a big difference, right, between political knowledge and politicizing knowledge, right? And sometimes people that even don't get involved in politics still have a tendency to politicize knowledge. And what I mean by politicizing knowledge, it means to say that what I know is superior to what you know because it's what I know. So what I know to be true is the truth. And what you believe or think is just what you believe or think. It ain't got nothing to do with me or the truth. Like, that's how we talk as humans. Like, not all of us speak like that, but we speak like that as humans. And it's kind of natural, right? Because we are all individuals, even when we share a perspective that is culturally developed, right? That culturally developed perspective that we share is still ultimately based off of both what we know from our collective experience and what we know from our individual experience. And to negate our individual experience on the behalf of the cultural experience is considered one type of deformity or disorder, or, you know, like to completely negate the cultural experience, the collective cultural experience for the individual cultural experience is called narcissism, right? But then on the converse, to completely negate the individual perspective for the collective is, what do we call that? I'm sure we have a name for it. I can't think of what that might be right now because this is off the top of my head. But you get the point, right? Like the healthy self is taking an understanding of the collective and meshing it with the experience of the individual and cohering the knowledge to develop new knowledge that is both timeless and unique. And it can't be unique. Something that is unique in and itself is not timeless. And something that is timeless in and itself is not unique. But we have the capacity of creating that which is both timeless and unique. And that's the idea of the eye of Horus and the eye of Ra, right? Timelessness and uniqueness being looked at through at both eyes are looking for and observing the same thing, right? But one of them is processing in its timelessness, and the other eye is processing the uniqueness. And then the mind, the gut, the heart line those things up in a balanced way. And that is the function of the human. That's what we do. That's what we're here to do, right? So back to this idea of like political knowledge and politicizing knowledge. Political knowledge is that what it is, right? It's the knowledge of what we're arguing about because we seeing things different, right? The knowledge associated with different ways of viewing things, the knowledge associated with different ways of expressing truth, right? Like that's political knowledge, you know. But politicizing knowledge is something else. Politicizing knowledge is the debate between round earthers and flat earthers, right? Now, once upon a time in human history, people killed behind that argument. They were literally murdered because they didn't agree with the premises they didn't agree with the premises. They didn't agree with the processes of discernment that went into that conversation. Is the earth round or is the earth flat? Heliocentric versus geocentric, right? Is the earth the center of the universe or is the sun the center of the universe? They were literally people that literally died. Violent deaths because people disagreed with that, right? Literally died violent deaths. And as humans, you would think that we're kind of past that kind of debate. Not to say that we're past debating information. I'm not to say that we're beyond the idea that you think this and I think that, and we're going to hash it out through intellectual discourse. Not that beyond. I'm talking about we're trying to hash it out, through intellectual discourse. And now I'm literally trying to tie you to a pole and light a fire to you because we disagree on something that really and truthfully, in some cases, neither one of us can really prove. Can we prove that the earth is the center of the universe? Can we prove that the sun is the center of the universe? Some people will say the spine is the center of the universe. And from that perspective, and the ones that say that, they have a very strong argument. They say that the spine is the center of the universe. So each individual person's spine is the center of the universe because the individual is the observer of the universe. And from the position of observation is the center. So when I observe the universe, I'm observing the universe. And when he's observed the universe, he's observing the universe. That's the universe. And he's the center of it. I'm the center of my universe. I'm not the center of my universe. But in that context, it would say something more along the lines of, I am the center of my observation of the universe. And he is the center of his observation of the universe. And she is the center of her observation of the universe. And they are the center of their observation of the universe. And when I say they, I mean a collective understanding of the universe. Will that be a worldview for these people or those people? Will it be a worldview of the Cherokee? And I like to speak about the Cherokee and the Yoruba because I'm associated with those peoples, right? Historically, genetically, spiritually associated with those people. So that's why I reference them a lot, right? Their perspective, the Hebrew perspective, the Cherokee perspective, the Yoruba perspective is the center of the universe. The center of the universe from the perspective of the universe, the viewer of the universe. It makes sense. And it works. It works, especially when The intention is to do like what the law of attraction says, like for the law of attraction to work for any individual. The idea says that I have to be in myself, and I have to understand and desire and see and want and all that. And at the same time, let the other do the same without any resistance. And when I encounter the other, I have to encounter the other without resistance, in spite the fact that there may be a differentiation in perspective. But in order for me to be able to manifest from my center of perspective, from my center, in order to be able to manifest from my center, or for an individual to be a manifester in their totality, they have to allow the other to do the same. And resisting the other from doing the same resists the self from doing, right? And that's in a nutshell what that says. And there's some peace in that, right? There's some peace in that, because the idea of manifestation, the law of attraction idea of manifestation is about like being in a state of peace and in a state of peace and appreciation. And from the position of peace and appreciation, all things come to the self. All desires all are within the context of manifestation. When there's an alignment, there's balance and alignment, when there's balance and alignment, right? When the gut thinking and the heart thinking and the mind thinking can be balanced along from the individual perspective and the collective perspective. These things make up how the mind works, because all things are thought. All of the world is energy, and energy is thought, and all thoughts become things, and the things that we think become thought. The things that we think become things. Everything, this iPhone, these beads, everything started off as a thought. Even me as an individual, I started off as a thought. The thought was, "Ooh, I love that woman right there. Ooh, let me see if I can holler at her." That was the thought that brought me into being. Ooh, I really enjoy her. She's pleasant. I think I love her. Hey, girl, let me holler at you. And it might, I was about to go into a little bit of I'm going to back that up. I think I made my point right there. But all things begin as thought, right? And so, like, when we argue about, like, so my man who made the point, I don't know, I just got here. That's so profound, because it speaks to the idea that I don't know what you believe. I haven't been in your world view long enough to answer the question to your understanding. Because I'm in your world, you want the answer to the question in your worldview, and I haven't been here long enough. That was brilliant. I don't know if that's exactly how he meant it, but that's completely brilliant. So, to speak to the idea, it's like the question itself, how many genders are there? Well, if you answering the question from a worldview that is older than any living human being, then you would answer two. There are worldviews that recognize some additional like permutations of gender expression. So then there are cultures, and these are facts. There are cultures, plenty of cultures, like the Dragon Lady, for instance, and I believe that's Chinese culture, and then some Native American cultures that have these perspectives of men that live their lives as women, or women that live their lives as men, but mostly it's men that live their lives as women. That's the more common in a historical perspective, version of the term we call the term we call in a modern world gender fluidity. They have historical perspective. They have historical reference. And in the context of those historical perspectives, there is an understanding of two genders expressed in a permutation of ways, right? Like base 2, like I can count to all of the internet is based off of base 2, right? On or off, but I can count to 1 billion. I can record a digital version of me speaking to you based off of 2 positions, right? All of this expression, all of this digital recording, internet connectivity, all of that is manifest through the collective expression of 2 realities, on and off, right? That's how digital everything works, right? You have on and off. And on and off happens so fast. We talk about megahertz and clock speeds and all of that stuff. If you know anything about computers, then you know these things to be true. We talk about megahertz and clock speeds and gigabits and all of that stuff we're talking about when we talk about clock speeds and data storage. I got a 5 gigahertz processor with 256 gigabytes of storage. You just reference the reality of a binary system and in all of the expression, every permutation that you could possibly relate to as it relates to that in the context of digital everything. When I talk about the quantum aspects of things, we don't have quantum cell phones yet. We don't have quantum headphones. We don't have quantum video recording. We don't have quantum computing like that yet. We don't have the experience of that. We have the experience of digital recording and digital experience, digital transmission, digital reception, digital communication, digital remediation. We have digital expressions, all these variations of digital expressions, from a document to a recording to images, NFTs, blockchain, money, all of that is reflected from a binary system, on and off. And all of the various permutations of on and off makes all the varying expressions that come out of that. But the reality is on and off. And every computer in the world only ever looks at on or off at any given moment. Those given moments go by clock-like speed. They happen faster than your mind can comprehend, but they only happen on and off at a time. And that is part of that construction, because you can call it a construct if we like. That construction of digital expression is based off of the human observation of the universe, night and day. There's not a thing that's called day night. We have dusk, where night and day are nearly blended into each other. We have dusk and dawn, where night and day are nearly blended into each other. But we have night and we have day. You know? And so with us having a binary experience, night and day, life and death, we also have various expressions of that binary observation, because it's not strictly binary, right? And it is at the same time. At least that is the worldview of humanity as far back as human thinking has been. And the modern moment, we're in a new position of politicizing understanding, politicizing information. And we're doing it in more than one way. Jab or no jab. And then all of the various articulations of jab or no jab. But it's ultimately jab or no jab. To be or not to be. That is the question. So, it's your boy, Adeleke. I love you. I love you with everything. And I always do, and I always will. Always have, and I always will. That's more proper English, right? And with that, I think I'm going to close this particular conversation up. I enjoy this so much. And I hope again, as I have before, and I will in the future, in future times to come. I hope that this reached who it needs to reach, and I know for a fact that not everyone will fully comprehend the intention or the message. Yet I still pray that anyone engaged in the message at all will carry with them a sense and a spirit of discernment and compassion and grace, because that's what your boy going for. You feel me? Anyway, bless up.